Yeah, before I kick off, I never thought I'll be doing a public webinar in a Springbok shirt, but whatever it takes to back our boys, I suppose. And may we enjoy the rugby tomorrow evening. At least the stressful phase in our life lasts for now, as far as sports concerned. It might be slightly over, although the Proteas are still playing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another free Friday lunch webinar that we're presenting once a month, typically the last Friday of the month, on the important topic of conflict management and courageous conversations. It's my privilege to have you, and I really thank you for being here today. So for those of you who don't know me, I head up an organization called Soldati, where we believe in growing leaders and impacting results. That's also my area of focus and our area of focus as a business. Right, so we also have a company called Soft Skill Solutions, where we try to unlock human connection potential. If you go into our Soldati website, soldati.com, and you go to the Genetic Solutions tab, under Growth Solutions, you will find Soft Skill Solutions. And if you click on there, if you go down the page, you will see that we are starting to do masterclasses from the end of this month in our training facility that we've kitted out to focus on small groups, trying to equip you with tools, techniques, and methods to master specific areas around soft skills. Trevor Buthelezi will do leadership fundamentals. Mariette Malherbe is also on this call in the session doing presentation skills, and I'll be focusing on personal productivity, and we'll keep on rolling those out over the next couple of months. More topics, rather. A couple of housekeeping matters. Just once again, thank you very much. Please mute unless you ask a question, if you don't mind. I'll aim to be done in 25 minutes and allow 5 or 3 minutes for Q&A. Please don't try to refrain from using the chat box to ask me questions because I might not get there. You saw that the session is recorded. And then please mail me with regards to future topics that you feel self-leadership topics that you feel might add value to your lives and that you would like me to focus on. Right, so just a disclaimer from my side, I don't have the magic wand to address all your typically soft skills needs. I would like to give you different perspectives though, and hopefully that will lead or path the way in your life to living life differently better, if I can put it in that manner. Right, my invitation to you is to reflect. In terms of content that I'm presenting to you, hold up the proverbial mirror and ask yourself, how am I gauging? How am I doing? And what is there more that I can do in order to improve my life as far as the topic is concerned? Sorry for pausing now and again. I'm going to admit a couple of people, but that is basically it. So I've passed. I'm going to turn the presentation on its head in the sense that I'm going to start with courageous conversations. Now, you might ask, okay, but what is a courageous conversation? Well, according to this Physiopedia website, which I think is a credible website, they define it as a discussion that is often difficult and uncomfortable. There are often emotions on both sides of the conversation and can be awkward, stressful, or challenging situation. And the key is to be open, authentic, and honest while maintaining an atmosphere of trust and respect. That's courageous conversations. Now you might ask, but hang on, how does that differ from a crucial conversation, which is the more well-known term, I suppose? And that's the definition of a crucial conversation, as per the Crucial Conversation book that was written by Joseph Greene and his associates. It's a discussion between two or more people where the stakes are high, opinions vary, and emotions run strong. And in the book, they have this quote. It's about how to have constructive conversations while managing conflict at the same time. And that versus difficult conversations. You might ask, but hang on, what's the difference between those? Well, I think all those three terms, or terminology, all those three concepts are pretty much the same thing. Same old, same old. It's just a different flavor. And I want to start off by setting the scene, just also to clarify that. So that brings us to conflict, before we get to conflict management. According to the Oxford Online Dictionary, conflict is a serious disagreement or argument, typically a protracted one. And for those of you that, like me, that has English as a second language, protracted means it's long term. And it's as simple as that. So, and it's lasting longer than expected. Right, so courageous conversations, crucial conversations, difficult conversations, when those are typically unresolved, when we don't manage those effectively and efficiently, and it gets to the next level, that is where I believe we're looking at conflict management. And there's a disclaimer from my side, as far as that's concerned. I'm talking to you today around conflict management in a world where there's sanity, or very much to a large extent, sanity, and reasonability. And you might argue that in business or in our home lives, there are sometimes not sanity and reasonability. Yes, I get that. But by and large, there should be. I'm not talking about conflict management in a broken world where there's war between Israel and Hamas, the Gaza Strip, and between Russia and Ukraine, because that's insanity. Our world and our lives are upside down. I don't think we've had so much chaos since World War II. And I think that if there's any reason why we need to be motivated to master areas like what we're discussing today, I think that is a good reason to do exactly that, to try and master and get these things as best as possible dealt with and practice it to make sure we get better and better and better at it. So what is conflict management? According to that website, indeed, conflict management is, and I just want to move that thing. Conflict management is a set of techniques required to identify and resolve conflict in the workplace. Since conflict is an all part of any work environment, conflict management's goal is to detect and minimize the negative effects of conflict rather than eliminating it completely. Conflict management is also used to handle conflicts with fairness and efficiency. And in doing so, you can avoid poor communication between colleagues, decrease workplace tension, to improve productivity, and also keep the morale of employees high. Now, I want to focus on that line. Conflict is a normal part of any work environment or any environment that we operate in. And the same applies at home as well. You would agree. Below this quote from Dorothy Thomas, just to underline this point. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two choices. Bearing in mind what I just said, and I think you would agree with the fact that conflict does not go away. We will always have to face conflict. So we've got two choices. We can either run away or engage in conflict, which I'll get to a little bit now. Or we can decide we consciously focus on mastering conflict and conflict management. And be on the receiving side of the benefits that comes with that, not only for ourselves, but also for the people around us. So on the 17th of April, I presented this topic to you. For those of you who attended, you would recall, around emotional intelligence. So I believe if we talk about conflict management, it all starts with EQ or EI. Doesn't matter which one of the two well-known acronyms you want to use. Conflict management, in my view, starts with emotional intelligence. If you are not emotionally intelligent, you will find it very difficult to be successful at conflict management. I've got no doubt. So, let me just take you back to that presentation in April. EQ, as far as I'm concerned, and this definition I got, having looked at a number of the definitions, I like this one, which says, it's our capability to manage and control our own emotions, right? That one's kind of easy. We expected that. But very importantly, the second part of this definition says, to also possess the ability to control the emotions of others. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the word control. I would say manage. Second part, after managing and controlling my own emotions, I need to have the ability to manage somebody else's emotions. Let me give you an example. Somebody walks into your office, they're upset and scream at you and say, What did you do there, and how could you have made that decision, etc., etc. And then we have two options once again. We can either engage and drop down to the same level, or we could say, but hang on, let's tackle the issue. Let's not make this personal. Calm down, sit, grab a seat. Can I make you a cup of coffee? How many sugars do you take? You apply that way of dealing with the conflict, adopting that emotional high road, of having high level of EQ, you will get a totally different response. Let's make some time to reflect. Talking about EQ, ask yourself. You don't need to say it out loud, but ask yourself on a rating from 1 to 10, how do you rate yourself from an EQ point of view? Be honest with yourself. Talking about reflection. And then as a group and your teams at work, ask yourself, what can you individually or collectively in your team do to influence your organizational culture to promote higher levels of EQ? And if I may, I think the first answer is in the context of self-leadership. It starts with self. That's the first thing I can do. I can make sure that I lead by example and that I maintain high levels of EQ. And I think a very, very, very important second action that we can implement to promote high levels of EQ is to make sure there's consequence. People can't rant and rave and throw their toys out of the cot, so to speak, and insult people and bring down the team morale by bringing disharmony to the organization, and there's no consequence. Because what's going to happen? The guy next team is going to say, or next to you is going to say, but hang on, you got away with it, so I can do the same. And from there on end, it just goes downwards. You would agree. So the first prize in demonstrating that you've got high EQ, the high EQ alternative is to be able to master courageous conversations, crucial conversations, difficult conversations. And I want to say, in line with what I said earlier, to first master your emotional intelligence. Wayne Dyer said, conflict cannot survive without your participation. If you raise the proverbial white flag, nobody will fight for you if you don't want to fight. If you do what you're supposed to be doing in being a high EQ leader. Conversely, on the other side, the flip side of the coin, we've got things like this, when people almost want to say cowardly engage in email warfare. Typically an example of people that's got low EQ. Or don't have the confidence or are not willing to step out of their comfort zones to actually engage in those topics that I've just mentioned. Courageous conversations, for example. So person B responds to an email to what person A sent, and they deem it as a pellet gun that was shot at them. Typically, a lot of people are copied in this email, as we all have experienced in the past. And person B shoots back. So I'll show you with a 9mm. Person A received that email and decides, I'm going to shoot back with something bigger and more impactful, with a machine gun, and carries on and on and on. And ultimately, one of the two decides to hit the nuclear missile button. And then that person decides that's enough. I've seen that email, that nuclear missile, and I'm going home. So I want to ask you, and please shout it out, if we have to reflect, what do you think could be the consequences of what happened right now? Anybody?
Mansadi here. Chances are the conflict won't be resolved.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Absolutely.
Escalate further.
Yeah. So typically that person, would you agree, that walks to his or her car after sending that last email starts to get into emotional state of more sanity, I suppose. That's less emotional, and realize, but hang on, what did I do? You agree? And that's not even talking about the consequences of the person on the receiving end, of what they're feeling and experiencing. Second question, how do you think this could have been handled better? Anybody?
I think they could have spoken to each other in person, if it's possible, or with a Zoom meeting, because the words that has been written there is forever. And you might feel differently, as you said just now, you might feel differently a few minutes afterwards. So in person that's my suggestion.
Absolutely.
And Hekkie, just to add to that, somebody once said to me, when it comes to writing emails, never write an email that can create or cause any kind of emotional response on the other end.
Absolutely.
So much better in a case like this you can write the email, but you say in the email, listen, I have something a little bit uncomfortable to discuss with you when you have time. And then first prize in person, second prize online, cameras on, and third prize a phone call perhaps.
Phone call. Absolutely. And we all agree, in person is just better. Yeah?
Yep. Body language is so important.
Sorry. Go for it.
Can I add to that? And that is, don't copy other people in on that email.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just making it worse, and you're triangulating people. You know, it's your issue with that person. Don't bring other people into it.
Absolutely, because then the person on the receiving end, would you agree, feel obliged to now, everybody's looking. I need to do something here.
Absolutely.
Part of the issue. Agreed.
Yeah.
Right. So the point is, let's choose the emotional high road. Also by focusing on building and improving my self-confidence, my ability to want to get out of my comfort zone, to want to use the opportunity to engage in a crucial conversation or courageous conversation, and to, like we said, to follow the in-person approach. And if you really can't help yourself to send that mail, say to yourself, self-talk's a big biggie, also as far as conflict management is concerned, say to yourself, let me at least sleep over it. But that's second prize. Absolutely first prize, like we said, the in-person approach to get it resolved. Walking away from conflict, I believe, is the 100th prize. It's not the second prize, because you shouldn't get a silver medal for walking away from conflict. But it's much better than the 1,000th prize, which is certainly not the third prize, because again, you certainly shouldn't get a bronze medal for engaging in conflict. When I went for a run this morning, and just after that, putting the finishing touches onto this presentation, I thought to myself, we owe it to ourselves and to the people around us to put better systems in place to be able to put ourselves in a position to manage conflict better, like de-stressing. To put ourselves in a position where we have the ideal emotional state of calmness, with sanity, with reasonability, in terms of what I referred to earlier as well. If that's your ideal emotional state, and I just tried to illustrate a point here, and that's the point where you, outside of that red line, you really start to lose it. And you're almost at that point where you feel you're gonna blow. Then you need to do things to get yourself back into the ideal emotional state. You need to practice things to get yourself back into that state. And if that means get up, go and take a walk, if that means you seriously apply self-talk, whatever, don't react when you're in that emotional state of madness, I almost want to say. Try and focus and do things to get yourself back to your ideal emotional state, because then you won't do things that you would regret. If I go to any prison, and premeditated murder, I suppose, is a little bit different. But if I go to any prison and ask somebody, listen, when you kill that person, we're in a normal state of mind, I promise you 90% of them would say, I regret it. I was mad. I was on that red line. I was outside of that red line, and I just flipped to illustrate the point. Tonight, 2 weeks ago, people that we know well, mom came back from work, stressed, argument with her son, is writing a trick now. argument with her husband, and she went to get a gun from the safe, and she killed herself in front of her husband. And we all are saying, if she could only have waited, if she could only have waited and have bought time, so to speak, just to have done something to get herself in the ideal emotional state. Now, I know that's the extreme example, but the same applies with conflict management, ladies and gents. And the point is we typically have second chances to re-engage. If you walked away, or if you engaged into the conflict yesterday, don't leave it there. At home and at work, re-engage. Don't settle until you've got the first prize. But obviously, first prize is to get to the first prize first, and not to go through the via route of first exploring the other alternatives. I want to share with you from my experience practical tips in conflict management, just quickly. It's not necessarily what you say, it's not the what, it's the how you say it that counts. Put yourself in the other person's shoes, also before you judge. This one is in red because it's so important. Ask yourself, what I'm about to do or say, will I be proud of it tomorrow? Forget about tomorrow. In the next hour, will I be proud of myself? One of the directors that I worked for, he always said, you either deal with issues or issues will deal with you. And that's the next point. When issues are left unresolved, conflict just gets worse unless somebody dies. And the thing is, if you leave conflict, if you leave the issue alone, that might result in conflict and you avoid it, you actually condone it. And that's the next one. Use self-talk productively when you manage conflict. Talk to yourself. Such an important tool. Put your pride in your pocket and keep your testosterone levels in check. And ladies, you also have those levels lower than ours, yes. But it wants us to it actually causes us to want to fight, right? Next one, play the ball, not the man. Talking about World Cup cricket and rugby. Let's always bring ourselves and the other person back to the issue. Resolve the issue. Don't play the person, play the ball. Only focus on a win-win. It's about finding an optimal solution. Yes, you might not win as much as I do, but we both need to win. The next time, it might be the other way around. And start small and practice the skill as much as possible. Conflict management. Don't walk past somebody that's sitting like this in your team. Oh, I don't want to go there. That is opportunity. Engage with that person. Find out what's happening. That's a small way of practicing to gain the confidence to get out of your comfort zone to the next time handle high levels of conflict management. And whatever it takes, don't do permanent damage to relationships. Relationships or damaging relationships, money can't buy and getting it and fixing it necessarily. So those are important things that we can't afford to do. Just very briefly, in the interest of time, I'm going to run through this quickly. If somebody tells you and gives you negative feedback, don't assume. Because typically the shutters goes down and we don't listen to the whole picture if we start to hear negative stuff about us or our department or what we did. Repeat to that person the way you interpreted their message to confirm what they said. And in our next webinar in November, we're going to talk about communication skills, and this absolutely touches on that. Then if that person might say, no, that's not what I meant. I meant something else. And then you at least clarify. If they tell you something and you repeat it and they say, yes, that's what I meant, go and vet it with somebody else that you trust to confirm if that's actually something that might be a blind spot as far as your development is concerned as a leader. But the point is, once you've got the real facts, you've got something to work with as opposed to the story that you tell yourself, and it's not really accurate facts. It's actually just an assumption. I'm going to skip that video. I apologize. I've been talking too much earlier. It's from Simon Sinek. You can Google it around conflict management. The invitation to this webinar, I quoted Marcus Aurelius. Conflict is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. And in line of that, I would like to invite you to reframe. Say to yourself, I'm going to trust that the other person does not have bad intentions, as a way of reframing potential conflict. reframe conflict as opportunity. Reframe conflict as a negotiation, a serious negotiation, as opposed to I'm going to fight. These things are all intertwined, and in leading ourselves to achieve the best optimal solution in anything, we need to understand, for example, in conflict management, what's our motivation? Are our motivations right? We need to understand if I work on discipline, if I work on self-confidence, if I work on my ability to get out of my comfort zone, etc., I'll be able to do all these things actually better, and specifically in relation to conflict management. They go hand in hand. Very briefly, hard skills, we get a certificate against the wall that we are proficient and we're doing it well. Soft skills like these, ladies and gents, we need to certify ourselves. And we need to certify ourselves after we've practiced. And that allows us to master it. That's the book I wrote in this stuff. If you're interested, here's our next month's topic. And the one in Jan is not called Please Let Me Know. Would like to invite you once again to let me know what you think you would like us to cover. And I'll gladly have a look at it. That is me. Please, if you haven't joined me on LinkedIn, send me an invitation. I'm going to exit at that point, and I am basically on time, and I apologize for waffling a little bit more than usual. Any questions in this regard? Disagreements? Did it help? Is it something we can work with?
Thank you from my side, for sure. Maybe something that really helped me in the past to actually engage in crucial or difficult or uncomfortable situations is the fact that you must always ask yourself, when you look at the other person, do you really care about him or her? If you can say honest, yes, I do. I do care about that person. I need to have this conversation because, there's something that I will learn, but there's something that I can help this person with, whether it's, career implications or, helping them to control emotions or whatever it might be. If you can say, I care about that person, and it's not about your own ego, that helps, and that helps to give you the courage to do so. I will post in the notes as well and probably, I'm not sure whether it's the same video, but it's the next video on very practical advice on how to approach such a conversation, what you should say in the beginning. For example, this is very uncomfortable for me. I'm actually afraid I'm going to bug this up, so please be patient with me. But we need to have this conversation, and then he gives the FBI acronym on stuff that you should say. So I'm going to post it there. Watch it. It's 4 minutes. Very practical as well. Thanks, Hekkie.
Thanks, Stefan. To your point, in the coaching space, we always say leave you at the door. Leave yourself at the door. Actually, Mia taught me that, and that's so true. It's about the issue, and let's more care about the other person and deal the issue. It's not about ego and me. Yes, partly, but we too much focus on what I want and what I need. Thanks, Stefan. Anything else? And we're 2 minutes over. So I think let's cut it there. I would like to thank you once again for joining me. Looking forward to seeing you next month. Have a great weekend, and Boka Boer. May you guys enjoy the game. All the best to you. Have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay,
next one.
Bye-bye.